Welcome back to the deep dive.
Oh.
Okay, I want to start with a bit of a thought experiment today.
Oh, I like these.
Yeah, you just have to suspend your disbelief for a second. Imagine we could just hit a reset button on the British Constitution.
A full reset.
Total wipe, slate clean. Forget the history, the ermine robes, all the weird traditions. If we were sitting down right now with a blank sheet of paper to design an upper chamber of government from scratch, what would we actually build?
It's a terrifying question, but it's also, I think, the only way you can really get to the heart of the matter.
Right, because normally we get so bogged down in what the House of Lords has been or what tradition says it should be.
It's all about preservation.
Exactly. But our deep dive today is based on this really fascinating piece of writing called Redesigning the Lords, a blueprint for reform. And the mission here is, well, it's not a history lesson.
No, not at all. It's a design challenge. It's more like engineering than archaeology.
That's the perfect way to put it. We're going to look at the design space, strip away all the baggage, and just see what options are actually on the table.
And the source material forces us to get away from the political slogans, power to the people versus preserve our heritage. It just asks us to look at the machinery. What do we actually want this thing to do?
Exactly. But before we get into all the theoretical models, and some of them are pretty messy,
They are.
we have to ask, is this just a fantasy? Are we just, playing Hymn City with the Constitution? People have been talking about reforming the Lords for, 100 years?
And that's the first big reality check the source hits us with. It argues that reform isn't some distant hypothetical thing. It says reform is actually happening right now.
By degrees.
By degrees, yes. It's happening already.
That's interesting because it doesn't feel like it. On the surface, it feels pretty static.
On the surface, yes. But underneath, the ground is shifting. The source points to these specific nudges, these pressures that are making the current system more and more uncomfortable.
So it's not an explosion, it's like an erosion.
Exactly. The foundations are wearing away.
So let's unpack those. What are the specific pressure points making the current setup so unsustainable?
Well, the first one is just the idea of lifetime membership.
Right.
I mean, in a modern democratic system, getting a job for life, no matter what, it just feels... The source uses the word odd. It doesn't really fit anymore.
It's a total anomaly. I mean, where else does that happen? Supreme Court in the U.S., maybe. But in business, politics, you have to perform.
Precisely. And that connects to the second nudge, which is about participation. The source highlights this specific criticism of attendance without real participation. The idea you can just show up, claim an allowance, but not really contribute.
The seat warmer problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in an age of transparency, you can't hide that anymore. People can see it. It breeds cynicism. And that leads to the third nudge, which is probably the biggest one.
The appointments process.
The appointments process.
Yeah.
The cronies issue that always hits the headlines.
Yeah.
The source says that even when it's well-intentioned, the process just looks opaque and overly political to the public. It looks like the prime minister handing out favors.
And that destroys trust.
It completely undermines its moral authority.
So these three things, the lifetime terms, the attendance issue, the dodgy-looking appointments, they're all pushing the institution somewhere else.
That's the argument. They're causing it to drift towards something smaller, more time-limited, and easier to justify.
So the question isn't, should we change it? It's
changing anyway, so are we going to steer it or just let it crash?
do we design the building or just live in the rubble after it collapses?
That's the core question.
Okay, so if we decide to steer, where do we go? Because this debate usually feels like two camps shouting at each other.
The keep tradition camp and the elect everyone camp.
Yeah, it's very binary. You're either a dinosaur or a revolutionary.
And that's the trap. The source is so good because it says, no, the reality is much, much messier, but also more interesting.
So let's map out that messier space. The source gives us 4 distinct models. And I think we should go through them because the downsides aren't obvious.
Right. Model 1 is the fully appointed model.
So, closest to what we have now.
Kinda. But maybe with the cleaner appointments process, no hereditary peers.
Right.
But fundamentally, people are picked. They don't run for office.
And the argument for that is what?
Expertise. Exactly. Independence and expertise. You could pick the world's best scientist, a retired general, an ethical thinker, people who would never, ever run for election.
So you get a room full of people who are genuinely smarter and more experienced than the commons.
That's the goal. But the con is massive. It's the Achilles heel.
Legitimacy.
Legitimacy. Who gave these people the right to say no to the elected government? When push comes to shove, they often back down because they don't have a democratic mandate.
So you've got a Ferrari with no gas, a room full of geniuses who are afraid to speak up.
Perfectly put. They have capability, but no authority.
Okay, so what about the complete opposite? The elected model. This is what people shout for. Let us vote.
And that solves the legitimacy problem neatly. If you're elected, you have a mandate. You can stand up to the prime minister.
Great. Problem solved. Democracy wins.
Well, not quite. This is where the trade-off really bites you.
Uh-oh.
If you elect the upper chamber, you immediately create duplication and conflict.
So you have two houses,
Yeah.
both elected, both claiming to speak for the people.
And who has the final say? If the Commons passes a law and the elected lord says no, you get gridlock. You see it in the U.S. all the time.
And you lose the expertise, right?
Mm.
Because then you just get career politicians.
You get another career politician. You're not getting the Nobel laureate anymore. The chamber just becomes a mirror of the lower house, House of Commons 2.0.
And what's the point of that? So, okay, the obvious compromise. A mixed chamber, some appointed, some elected, best of both worlds.
That's Model 3. And it sounds so sensible, doesn't it? Very British.
It does.
But the source points out a pretty fatal flaw. Mixed chambers can end up with a totally unclear purpose. They don't know what they're actually for.
How does that happen?
Well, you create this two-tier system inside the House. The elected members feel superior because they have a mandate.
And the appointed members feel superior because they're the experts?
Exactly. You get internal confusion, factionalism. The elected people call the appointed ones undemocratic, and the appointed ones call the elected ones amateurs.
It just paralyzes itself from the inside.
It can, yeah.
And the last one, the fourth model.
Incremental reform, just tinkering.
Sanding down the rough edges, set a retirement age maybe.
Right. It's low risk in terms of confrontation, but the con is that it avoids clarity. You're just kicking the can down the road, patching up leaks, but never actually deciding what the building is for.
This is surprisingly bleak.
Yeah.
Every option seems to create a new problem.
Well, that's the aha moment.
Right.
The source basically says, look, none of these are ridiculous ideas, but none of them solve everything. There's no silver bullet.
We're waiting for a unicorn, a reform that makes everyone happy, and it just doesn't exist.
Correct. And that brings us to what the source calls the trade-off loop.
I love this concept. It explains why this debate has been stuck for a century.
It's why we get stuck. The argument isn't really about the need for reform. Most people agree the current system is weird. The real disagreement is about which trade-offs we're willing to live with.
So one person shouting, I want expertise, and the other shouting, I want democracy. And they just talk past each other.
Exactly. Every solution creates a problem. You fix legitimacy with elections, you create conflict. You fix conflict by appointing people, you lose legitimacy.
It's constitutional whack-a-mole.
It is constitutional whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
And until we admit that, we just go in circles.
So are we just doomed to loop forever? Is there a way out of the trap?
There is a way to at least simplify the problem. And it's this idea of unburdening the institution.
Unburdening. What does that mean? What are we unburdening it from?
So we expect the House of Lords to do a lot. We want it to be the guardian of the Constitution, the voice of ethics, the home of technical expertise, and the keeper of institutional memory.
That's a lot of hats for one chamber to wear.
It's a huge amount. And the source asks, what if we didn't force it to carry all that weight? What if we created other bodies to handle some of that? A dedicated ethics council, for example.
I see. So instead of just hoping we happen to appoint a top bioethicist 10 years ago who's free on a Tuesday,
You formalize it somewhere else. Right now, the source says, we rely on chance. It's just serendipity. It's a terrible way to design a system.
so if you take some of those pressures off, the reform question gets simpler.
It gets simpler. It stops being about making one institution do everything.
Okay, so if it's not the everything chamber, what is it? What are the core ingredients we're left with?
This is the final design challenge. The source says it comes down to 4 key ingredients that you have to mix and match.
Lay them on me.
Legitimacy, independence, expertise, and restraint.
Okay. Legitimacy, the right to be there, independence, freedom from the party line, expertise, knowing your stuff. And restraint is knowing when to back down.
Exactly. Knowing your place. being the pause button, not the stop button, deferring to the commons when it really matters.
So we have these 4 sliders on a mixing board.
And here's the catch. You can't turn them all up to 10. It's impossible.
Right.
As we saw, if you crank up legitimacy with elections, you almost certainly have to turn down expertise and restraint.
It's like an equalizer on a stereo.
Right.
You turn up the bass, you might lose the vocals.
That is a perfect analogy. You have to tune it. There's no single correct setting. There's only the configuration that we as a society decide we want.
And the sources point so we can finally see that choice clearly.
Yes. Because the old slogans are falling away. We're moving beyond democracy good or tradition good to looking at the actual costs and consequences. The shape of the choice is finally visible.
You're finally looking at the menu and realizing we have to pay for what we order.
That's exactly it.
So, let's bring this all together. We've gone from the fact that the current system is already crumbling under its own weirdness to the 4 models, and now to this idea of trade-offs. Why does this matter to someone just, living their life?
It matters because how we design the check on power determines how power is used. If we let the upper house just drift, we end up with what you could call a zombie institution.
Zombie institution.
Yeah, it's walking around using resources, but it's not really alive or functional. It can't effectively hold the government to account.
And if we design it wrong, we could create massive gridlock and nothing ever gets done.
Or you end up with a chamber of experts who are totally out of touch and block things people actually want. Doing nothing is a choice, and that choice has consequences.
I think what really sticks with me is the honesty of it all. It just says, pick your poison.
Yeah.
It's not trying to sell a utopia.
It's refreshing. It treats you like an adult. It says there's no magic wand. You just have to prioritize.
So as we wrap up, we've seen the flaws, we've seen the models, and we've landed on this idea that reform is just about consciously choosing which problems you're willing to live with.
You can't escape the loop. You can only choose where to stop.
So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. It's a question, really. We know we can't have it all. The perfect chamber doesn't exist.
It's a myth.
Right. So if you were the architect, which specific trade-off would you accept? Would you sacrifice democratic legitimacy to get the smartest, most independent experts in the room? Or would you risk political conflict and gridlock just to make sure every single person holding power was put there by a vote?
Do you want a quiet, smart chamber that lacks authority or a loud, legitimate one that might break the system?
It's a tough choice. But as the source reminds us, we have to choose the one we're willing to build. Thanks for diving in with us.
Well, pleasure.
See you next time on The Deep Dive.